And we are joined now by Qinduo Xu. He's a political analyst at China Radio International. Talk to me about the significance of this state visit. What does it mean for this relationship, which has been described by so many as the most important bilateral relationship in the world?
Well, Mike, as we know, the two countries are the two largest economy in the world, and you can say basically the two most powerful countries in the world. So as long as they can maintain a stable, sound relationship, that's not only a blessing to the peoples of the two countries, but also to the regional and the global peace and stability. This is the Chinese thinking. Chinese tend to think in grand and long terms. So this is the overall importance of this relationship. And secondly, this important visit took place at the juncture of, there's a lot of talk of these traps between the rising power and a established power. So how to manage this pair of relationship, requires a lot of attention. There are a lot of challenges. There are differences in political systems and ideologies. So it's how to handle this relationship. And President Trump, his visit, obviously showed that the two countries can work together, and actually the two leaders have formed a strong personal relationship that obviously will help a lot in strengthening the bilateral cooperation. And at the same time, for the Chinese side, we do see, there's less talk of like human rights. There's a less dressing down the Chinese side, basically about political system, about human rights issues. So this all will work for the purpose of a stronger relationship between the two countries.
And we heard Wang Guang just a moment or two talking about the governor of West Virginia embracing some of the aspects of this trade deal, as well as the governor of Alaska. And obviously, the governor in Washington has to be delighted, too, because Boeing's going to be turning out a lot of jets headed towards China. Give me an idea of these deals. Are they a big deal?
Yes, they are, Mike. Quoting the words for the Chinese Commerce Minister, this is the biggest deal signed between two governments, ever signed between two governments in the world. $250 billion worth of deal. And it shows, I think from the Chinese side, it demonstrates this goodwill from Beijing that's to help reduce the deficit, the gap, and help rebalance the trade relationship, and help, of course, with President Trump's problem, the principle, like America First, to create more jobs, to help develop manufacturing. And there will be a lot of Chinese investment, with this basically joint funding by the two companies from China and the U.S. We'll do more investment in manufacturing. We'll create a lot of jobs. And as Wang Guang has said, West Virginia, Alaska, and Boeing companies, it's big deals, and that will help basically bring closer the trade relationship between the two countries.
Jim Spellman just had the story about the different presidents who've traveled to China. I interviewed former President Jimmy Carter back in 2014. Of course, he didn't make a trip to China, but he did establish diplomatic ties officially with China, and he played host to Deng Xiaoping in 1979. He says it's interesting. Every 4 years, people run for the White House by demonizing China, and then the minute they're elected, they get to work trying to strengthen this relationship. Talk to me about that dynamic and which president in the past have had to shift the most once they enter the Oval Office. Obviously, Donald Trump's done a dramatic about-face.
Well, yeah, that's right. That's a very interesting observation, basically. I think on the Chinese side, the government obviously understands that there's a lot of campaign rhetoric. Somehow there's a need to criticize and blame China, as a poster boy for the problem in the U.S. Of course, that's a gesture to win votes from their supporters. And Beijing understands that. And usually after the take office in January, and then they would gradually change and shift their policies, and then usually we would form a very strong relationship. And I think one example I can think of, like President George W. Bush, before his victory of the election, obviously he talked very tough about China. Basically, on the first day of his administration, he and his team basically were ready to deal with China. But of course, we know what happened during the 9/11 terror attack, and China offered help to work with the U.S. in combating global terrorism. And he visited China 4 times. He was present at the opening ceremony of the Summer Olympic Games in 2008. That's something the Chinese side very much looking forward to. So that was warmly received on the Chinese side.
Well, thank you so much for your analysis, Qinduo Xu.